Hello, everyone. Welcome to Kello Media. This is Kia Sonyi. Today, I have a guest with me, Philemon Zarai. He's an independent blogger, also a commentary on the Horn of Africa and global politics. Philemon, I really do appreciate your time and for coming here to share your view on Kello Media.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I think this really speaks to the volume of the Oromo community is very welcoming, engaging, and with the Eritrean community, and also just everybody in the Horn of Africa. I really appreciate being on the show.
Thank you very much for coming, Philemon. I do also recognize the fact that Eritreans and Oromos have a long history together, fighting together for independence, justice, and democracy. So I do appreciate your view, and I know you do some kind of commentaries and doing different times on Oromo protest, and you sympathize with our cause, and I really do appreciate that. But just to talk about I think it's very important to talk about the importance of Oromo politics in the Horn of Africa, and the importance of democracy, the importance of bringing through democratic system in that region, not only Ethiopia, but in that region, including Eritrea and Sudan and Ethiopia and all those Horn of Africa, even in international global level, that Horn of Africa is very crucial in a geopolitical atmosphere of this world. So it's really good that we talk those things, because people also want to really minimize this to the only Oromo cause or Oromo problem or not. But this Oromo problem is always going to be Ethiopian problem, the Horn of Africa problem. And you do understand that very well. I've seen your blog, and maybe let's get started with the whole situation in Ethiopia right now. How you perceive it? How do you see it? And what is your anticipations on that regard?
I think before we start, we have to rewind back to who was Abiy? How did this guy come out of nowhere? 2017, I did notice there was a lot of red flags with Abiy. 2017, the late December, he put out an interview in which he had these rhetoric that are like pretty much similar to the usual Ethiopianist, Greater Ethiopia mythology that has, design on Eritrea and Oromia, the talk of, one culture, one identity type of conversation. And there was a lot of red flags in his connection to the intelligence community, his connection to how he views Oromo nationalism. There was a lot of red flags there. So I had an issue how he came into the Ethiopian politics, how he rose. I was putting out these warning concerns, and then we had the peace deals. 2018 was really interesting in that we had to welcome the peace deal between the two countries, which is favorable for all the Horn of Africa. But at the same time, we didn't realize who Abiy was, what is his politics, how he viewed Oromo nationalism, how he viewed other oppressed nationalities, the federal system. This wasn't the background noise. How he views the economic path that Ethiopia or the region needs to take. He is more neoliberal, the privatization of different sectors and so on. Really bad things that he has brought on his background that people ignore in 2018. And then the people, all of us were excited about the peace deal, but we just disregarded that this guy has a lot of baggage and is really problematic. And this is what's happening right now. It's coming out as unraveling who he is and what he stands for.
I think that's a very important point that you raised. I think even before moving forward, Abiy's ideology, I really want to compare with between the relationship between the Eritrean struggle and the Oromo struggle. Over the years, we had history, and Isaias Afwerki himself was at some point setting up the federalist force in Ethiopia. He believed in that because he fought against the neo-colonials and the Amara supremacy group. That's the main reason Eritrea was fighting against that system. Now, at this point, he gave an interview last week, which is very upsetting to know that he is saying that the problem in Ethiopia is ethnic federation. First and foremost, there is nothing so-called ethnic federation. It's a multinational federation in that country.
Yes.
As an Eritrean young man who's a commentarian who do a lot of this analysis, how do you see this like 360 U-turn on the Prime Minister himself on this matter? Is it because of the marriage between Abiy and Ahmed, and what is their relationship really?
Well, you really have to understand this is a personal take of Isaias Afwerki. His views on the federalism and his own choice. We have to go back way into 85, the relationship between EPLF and TPLF. During that time, there was these ideological differences and tension between Meles Zenawi and the leadership of TPLF on the issue of nations and nationalities. From the point of view EPLF, it was concerning that what we have as Eritreans is different. The collective history is we are 9 ethnic group, but our system is to have a central government. We are the total historical experience is different. The political formation will be different. But the problem is Isaias tried to project that onto Ethiopia and make it seem like he is a proponent of Ethiopianism, central government. So it's totally opposite to what the narrative of nation and nationality was. So Isaias had these views before independence in 1985, the tension between TPLF and EPLF, and then also in 1991. So his intention, yeah, he opposed these Abyssinian fundamentalists, and that's true. That is historic. But the problem is his views on federalism is an issue here. He's prescribing an alternative in which there is no Oromia, there is just southern Ethiopia. There is no pretty much historic name would not be on the map.
Does that come from insecurity for himself, for Eritrea, when if Ethiopian people and the nations and nationalities get their fair share in the federal system, the Eritrean group, you say you guys are composed of nine ethnic groups in that country. But my understanding is that the Eritrean people do not have that fragmentation as Ethiopia does, and there is a unity in independence of Eritrea, and being an Eritrean is a number one priority. But when you come to Ethiopia, Oromos prefer to be Oromo, to call Oromo than Ethiopian. They don't identify themselves as an Ethiopian. So
yes.
That comes from insecurity for himself and worrying. And is that really something that you see, that something that he have to worry, or what is it really? What made him think this? Or is a personal relationship with Abiy, and he has to believe whatever Abiy believes in?
I think the main issue is if we. Like I keep referencing 1985, the tension, the ideological difference, 85 and also 91. So TPLF position on Eritrea was very controversial during that time. It was trying to impose this idea of ethnic nationalities, nations and nations within Eritrea. And that was, Isaias Afwerki opposed it from that point of view. If the TPLF are going to weaponize this idea into Eritrea, they will balkanize Asab, Afar region, and then Eritrea will no longer be. There is this historical sense of political problem, an issue from the perspective of Isaias Afwerki. So I think he looks at it that way. He feels this will be weaponized against Eritrea long term to balkanize it and just divide the Eritrean people. But I don't believe that. I think one system in Eritrea can be possible, and then another system within Ethiopia, multinational federalism, can be possible. We have nothing to fear with multinational federalism being implemented in Ethiopia. It helps the region. This is the only solution moving forward. Either this or it's just going to be chaos.
I know. I think it's good to kind of, now I want to come to the point where Oromos stand when it comes to Eritrean independence. And there is a video that I want to share with our audience. Maybe we can watch that and come back. This is I think Lench Olata in 1991. I think this meeting, I don't know exactly, it was probably most likely is going to be in Sanafi, Eritrea. And he was speaking and explaining why Eritrea needs to be independent and all that. So maybe our audience can see that and come back and see the relationship that Eritrean struggle and Oromo struggle had. And right now with the Isaias Afwerki stand, maybe, I mean, I'm not trying to put him on the spot, but I want to kind of put the whole perspective into our conversation.
Yes.
Let me see this.
Eritrea on a number of occasions, who has had dealings with various Eritrean liberation fronts, to make a few personal remarks. As my colleague has raised, the issue of history, culture, language, religion may be relevant. It might have been relevant at one time. It might have served as a cause for some people in Eritrea, hoping or wishing to unite with the rest of the peoples of this area. However, during my travels through Eritrea, during my dealings with Eritrean fighters and their leaders, I have seen to the contrary that there is a determination to create an independent Eritrea. This is a fact that is practically and physically being demonstrated. I would like to invite those of you who have not to visit the hills between Alpha and Alphabet. Coming from the rolling green hills of Western Oromia, the entire geography itself was a shock to me. But in these hills, the previous regime withheld the Eritreans for more than 10 years. And if you believe that the previous regime did not go to extremes to quash the aspirations of the Eritrean people, you are making a mistake because you did not see these hills, and I have seen them. I have also seen.
That's literally what I wanted to share and people to see, and how Oromo nationalists have sympathized with the Eritrean people when they were fighting for their independence. That's the point that I want to raise. And I really want to appeal to all Eritreans today, regardless of whether you support Isaias Afwerki or not, to see that, it's good to kind of trace back the history and see the relevance and to this day. Maybe if you want to comment on what we saw, that would be nice, and then we move on.
Yeah, I think that was a beautiful speech, and it's really highlights the beautiful struggle between the two peoples, not just between Eritreans and Oromos, but also the other oppressed nationalities, the Somali and Ogaden, the Sidamite people, the Afar. So this is a connection that we all have. We have the same beautiful struggle, and it speaks volume. I think he did a good job explaining, highlighting that from that.
Yeah. All right. Maybe let's move on to the on your blog. I heard you saying that. What is the reason, the problem, the behind the Ethiopian political unrest and instability?
Yes.
What do you think is the problem?
I think, okay, let's go back to Oromo protest 1.1. This is 2.0. This is under a new administration.
Right.
1.1, from my point of view as an outsider, maybe you can correct me. I saw it as a bottoms-up, poor farmers and the students getting together. It was very heavy class focus. The students were leading the movement. The farmers, there's an issue of land, the language, the issue of changing the system itself. But now I think the assassination of a heroic Oromo musician, and in addition to that, the arrest of high-profile Oromo leaders is problematic. And I think, how do you define this again? How do you define it in the ways of reforms, or do you define it in the ways of decolonizing Ethiopia? Decolonizing mean returning these indigenous land to the Oromia region, Sidamite region, make sure they have these system in place where they're able to rule. That does not mean push for balkanization of Ethiopia or separate it. No, I think the solution is to have federal system and just have it fully implemented in the constitution as is. And then the people can decide whatever political path they choose. I think the main issue is just hyper focus on individuals. Abiy is a problem. Abiy is definitely a problem, but the system itself is the problem. It's the root cause. This is starting from Menelik to now. The system itself does not give space for Oromo, does not give space for Sidamai, does not give space for Somali, does not give space for anybody that is not quote unquote Habesha, Abyssinian, of a different skin tone, does not give space for that. So this is a new system that has to be defined, reimagined. And I think a new union is possible. I don't think Oromo want to separate, but that is up to you guys. This is not to speak on. Yeah.
I think sometimes right now, what makes it hard to explain now about this, the quote unquote Habasha mentality, and when you go to, especially when you go to the international community to explain that Abiy administration does not accept the Oromo cause, and he did not answer any fundamental Oromo question. The question that follows is that, isn't it Abiy Ahmed himself an Oromo? So over the years, there were leaders in Ethiopia that claimed somewhere in their family blood or whatever, they had Ethiopian Oromo blood in theirs. Yes. But they don't even speak the language the Oromo people speak, which is the widely spoken language in the Horn of Africa, not only Ethiopia.
Yes.
The Horn of Africa. So the Oromo cause, and also they want to minimize this to the ethnicity or blood. This Oromo question is not about blood. This Oromo question is not about ethnicity. Oromo question is a question of democracy, equality, and justice. It don't matter who is in power, as long as the people are respected. So that's what they want to frame it. That's what makes it harder than TPLF. Back in the days, we used to say, "Oh, TPLF, they're from the north. They've been oppressing us. They are puppets, so-called OPDOs. Now they are oppressing our people using these people right now." And which, in fact, by the way, Abiy Ahmed is, when he was about to come to power, few days before that, they had to kind of do his profile on Wikipedia, which they changed so many times. Once they say his dad is Oromo or his mom is Amara, or they change around, both are Oromo, which is not really, the Oromo, we didn't care, because the Oromo problem, the Oromo question was not saying that, Oromo needs to come to power. No, the questions are Oromo demands needs to be met, is the real question. But anyway, let's move on. And I want to emphasize that right now, the problem of Ethiopia, as you said, is Abiy Ahmed himself at this point of stage. And the neo-colonial mindset that they want to bring the Abyssinian glorious days and all that stuff. Way forward, let's talk about the way forward, as Eritrea has a really big role in the geopolitics in that region, a big role. So do Ethiopia. How do you think the way forward is going to be? Of course, the Oromo way forward is just fighting this government and taking down. That's inevitable, in my opinion. But what do you think is the way forward now? Let's just talk on the way forward on this.
It's hard to determine or to predict where it will go, but just looking at the situation, Isaias currently has a personal relationship with Abiy. That's the historic fact currently, and this has always been the case. He always emphasized personal relationship over institutional or state-to-state relations, and this is problematic. It was the issue with Meles Zenawi. It's an issue with Abiy, and I think there is a problem in which he's not able to openly criticize Abiy publicly, because he is putting Eritrea and Ethiopia in a situation where the opposition to TPLF is pretty much, you ignore the bigger issue of why there is an issue in protest of Oromo, the struggle of the Oromos, Sidimai, and all this, because you're overly hyperly focused on TPLF. TPLF is not behind the conspiracy of what is Oromo nationalism. TPLF did not create federalism. TPLF did not create Oromo nationalism.
That's what he said on his speech, right? He said that TPLF created federalism, and I think their common enemy right now for Abiy and Isaias himself is TPLF. That seems to me what unified them.
That's it. Beyond the TPLF, there is not that much in common between these two worlds. The political strategy of Isaias is to counter and subdue TPLF. I think there was efforts to engage in September of 2018, but that did not work out. And then TPLF went to become more aggressive on the border, and so on. There was a lot of quiet issues that nobody's focused on between TPLF and Eritrea. That's ongoing right now. There's a lot of tension there. It's unresolved. But yeah, I think beyond these two marriages between Abiy and Isaias, it's mainly TPLF. Beyond that, Abiy publicly stated he doesn't respect Eritrean independence. In rhetoric, I mean, I'm just summarizing, but his views are the same views that the settlers in Addis Ababa who don't really recognize the sovereignty of Eritrea, recognize the ownership of Eritrea independence. So this is the imagination of the people who are hardcore Isaias, who support Isaias to the extreme. They're not able to critically examine the people who are behind Abiy. They don't recognize Eritrea. They don't recognize Oromia. They don't recognize the sovereignty of the region. They recognize only their domination, their historical mythology. Nobody else.
I feel like this is going to bite back Isaias himself, in my opinion, because
Yes,
historically, if you see the people that backed up the independence of Eritrea, the Oromo nationalists, the whoever was in that position, are now against Abiy Ahmed, and Abiy Ahmed is backed up with the people who actually was against the independence of Ethiopia, the independence of Eritrea, who were fighting against independence of Eritrea. Those are the people backing up Abiy himself. So right
yes,
now, for Isaias to go back to those people, that's how the system has to be built in that system is completely kind of hard to believe. And also, this is going to bite him back. And the Eritrean people, these people, first and foremost, I don't believe that there is no way they can break the Oromo nationalists, the Oromo self-rule. But the matter of fact is, if they do, this is going to come back from more than TPLF. TPLF is a very small force.
yes.
You can subdue. You can just you can overcome. But if this so-called the Abyssinian whatever capture state power, they will come back for Eritrea because they don't recognize the independence of Eritrea whatsoever.
Yes.
We have seen that. We have seen the Takala Uma's mayor office in Finfinne. They had Ethiopian map with the Eritrean included in it. So
Yes.
that is the administration that the Isaias Afwerki administration is kind of backing up, rather than the people who actually supported their independence when they were fighting against the colonials. But anyway, that's my personal view, and I really appreciate you. Maybe if you want to say a few words before we end this, and if you want to add some to lasting remark on this.
Yeah, I think overall the Oromo protest and the hashtag, we have to emphasize this is a bigger, the Oromo are the largest ethnic group. It's bigger than just TPLF. It's bigger than the issue between Isaias and Abiy. This is a historic turning point for the Horn of Africa. The largest ethnic group is on a path to demand decolonization of one of the largest country in Africa. So the political path, whatever Oromia goes, the Horn of Africa goes. It's important that there is a politics within this Oromo protest that focuses on the farmers in Oromia, the poor students. There has to be bottom up the bottom class. It has to be a class struggle within this protest. And in addition to that, the Oromo protest is not anti-Amharu. The criticism against Abyssinians is not against Amharu. The Amharu people in the region is not the enemy here. They're not the enemy. The Tigray people are not the enemy. This is a bigger struggle. It's an ideological struggle that we must support the Oromos, to pretty much move forward. It's a political project that we as Africans, we as a Black diaspora have to support. This is a bigger struggle. It's a class of questions of civilization. The Oromia represent the indigenous African civilization that is key to the soil of Africa. And then the other civilization, the Abyssinian, is imported. It has nothing to do with Africa. It is from Europe. So we support Africa. We are proud to be of this soil. We must support Oromia. Oromia is the heart of where we want the future to be. That's why I'm trying to tell people. That's why I heartily support Oromia. Whatever you guys choose, whatever region or whatever political path you choose, federalism or whatever autonomy, I will be there. And this is something the spirit of Eritrean struggle and in the Oromo struggle. We are one in this, the Horn of Africa. It's just not the Oromo, the Somali, the Sidami, the Afar. We're African, and this is the Pan-African struggle.
I really do appreciate Philemon Zarai, independent commentary, and also commentary on the Horn of Africa and the global politics. I really do appreciate this conversation with you. We should definitely come on in the future and discuss more of this in the Horn and the Ethiopian and even the Eritrean struggle. This is the past. This is the bringing the views and kind of explaining why you support the Oromo cause. And I really do appreciate this, and this means a lot to us. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You don't have to leave.